All right, so get ready because today we're diving deep into some pretty fascinating territory. We're talking about the psychology of attraction between younger women and older men.
It's really interesting stuff, and honestly, a topic that's loaded with misconceptions.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like a lot of people just assume that older men are kind of at a disadvantage when it comes to dating, but
That's not really true at all, is it?
not even close. In fact, all of the research that we dug into for this deep dive suggests the opposite is true.
Yeah, the source material we're looking at basically flips the script and says that maturity and life experience are actually huge advantages.
Exactly. And that whole idea that older men are past their prime, totally debunked.
Yeah, one of the things that our sources point out is that younger women are often frustrated by guys their own age.
Uh-huh.
Guys who maybe haven't figured things out yet or who are still playing games or whatever.
Right. Still trying to find themselves and their place in the world.
And I think for a lot of women that gets old.
Oh, I bet. It's like the whole Peter Pan syndrome.
Exactly. Fun for a while, but eventually you want someone who's got their act together.
Someone who's been there and done that.
Right, and that's where the appeal of an older man really comes in. He's already been through all of that.
Yeah, and that experience brings a certain level of confidence that's just undeniably attractive.
Absolutely, and it's not about arrogance. It's about a quiet self-assurance that just comes from knowing yourself.
Knowing yourself, knowing your worth, knowing what you bring to the table.
Exactly.
Can you give me like a real world example of what that kind of confidence looks like?
Sure, imagine a man walks into a room and he just kind of commands attention without even trying.
It's like a presence.
Yeah, there's a magnetism to him.
Not being flashy or loud or anything.
Nope, just a natural confidence that draws people in.
That's so powerful.
It really is.
Now, I know a lot of guys think that they need to chase after a youthful look to appeal to younger women. What do you think about that?
I think that's another myth our sources totally debunked.
Okay, good, because that can get a little out of hand.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
It's not about looking 20 years younger. It's about presenting yourself well.
Taking care of yourself.
Exactly.
So things like wearing clothes that fit well.
Yes. Good grooming habits.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Maybe even having a signature scent.
All of that.
Wait, hold on. You're telling me that the right cologne can actually make a man unforgettable?
It might sound crazy, but
Yeah, it's totally a thing.
our source material actually cites studies about this.
Okay, I'm listening.
Apparently, scent can kind of bypass the logical parts of our brains and go straight to the emotional centers.
Really?
So yeah, a well-chosen fragrance can actually create a really powerful impression.
Wow, that's wild. Okay, but let's move beyond the superficial stuff for a minute.
Sure.
What about some of those deeper qualities that make older men attractive?
Well, one of the things that came up over and over again in our research was the importance of emotional intelligence.
Okay, I'm gonna need you to break that down for me a little bit because I'm not a psychology expert.
Sure, so think of it this way. Have you ever been with someone who just gets you?
I think so.
Like they understand your moods
Uh-huh.
and they listen to you without judgment.
Yeah.
And they can even handle like difficult conversations maturely.
Without freaking out.
Exactly, that's what we're talking about.
Got it.
So it's not about being all sunshine and rainbows all the time.
Right.
It's about having the maturity and the skills to navigate those tricky emotional landscapes.
That makes sense.
And what our sources are saying is that older men often have a bit of an advantage here because they've had more life experience,
Yeah, I can see that.
more time to learn and grow.
To make mistakes and learn from them.
Exactly.
All right, so another theme that kept popping up in our research was this idea of adventure and honesty.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
So it's not just about stability, it's about still having that zest for life, right?
Right.
Okay.
Nobody wants to be with someone who's just going through the motions.
So we're talking less about like jumping out of airplanes and more about being open to new experiences.
Exactly. It could be traveling or trying a new hobby
Mhm.
or even just being willing to try a different restaurant.
It's about that spark.
Yeah, that enthusiasm that makes life more interesting.
I loved it.
And then honesty.
Yeah, well, honesty is important in any relationship, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. But what's interesting is how this plays out with older men.
How so?
They tend to be more comfortable with who they are.
Oh, yeah.
So they're less likely to play games.
That's refreshing.
Isn't it?
Yeah, because games are exhausting.
They really are. And it's about being upfront about what you want.
Yeah, like building trust. It's like instead of that initial spark, you're looking for something that glows a little bit more.
You know, that's a great analogy. Our sources talk about how that whole idea of love at first sight
Yeah.
might not actually be the best model for a lot of people.
So it's more of a slow burn.
Yeah, there's something to be said for that. Like you're getting to know somebody over time
And discovering things about them.
and appreciating those things.
Okay, so far we've covered maturity, confidence, emotional intelligence.
Taking care of yourself, being adventurous, being honest.
What else have we got?
Well, our sources point to happiness and leadership as two really important qualities.
Interesting. Now, when you say happiness,
Yeah.
I mean, I think most people would say they want to be with someone who's happy,
Right.
but are we talking about something specific here?
Yeah, it's not just about, like, smiling all the time or being cheerful.
Okay.
It's deeper than that.
So what does it actually look like then?
Well, imagine a man who just seems genuinely content with his life,
Hmm.
you know?
Hmm.
Like, he enjoys the simple things and he doesn't sweat the small stuff.
Yeah.
And he just has this positive energy.
It's like he radiates good vibes.
Exactly.
That's attractive.
It really is.
Now, when it comes to leadership,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that can be a bit of a loaded term.
I agree.
So how are we defining it in this context?
It's less about being bossy or controlling.
Good, because nobody wants that.
No, definitely not. It's more about having a sense of direction, a sense of responsibility,
Okay.
and the ability to make decisions with confidence,
To take charge.
in a way.
So give me an example of what that looks like in a real life situation.
Sure, so imagine you're on a date with someone.
Mhm.
He confidently picks the restaurant,
Mm-hmm.
engages with the waiter, makes sure everyone feels comfortable.
Those little things.
Yeah, it's not about being flashy, it's about those subtle cues.
Right. Okay, now there's this phrase in our research that I found kind of interesting. It's social proof.
Yes, that's a good one.
Can you explain what that means exactly?
Sure, so basically social proof is this idea that we're more likely to be attracted to someone if we see that other people value them.
Oh, like if he has a good reputation.
Exactly.
It makes sense.
It's like a subconscious signal.
Like, hey, this guy must be something special.
Yeah. If other people like him and respect him, then maybe I should too.
So what does that look like in practice?
Well, if a guy has a solid group of friends, people who enjoy being around him,
Yeah.
or if he's respected in his profession, maybe he does some volunteer work in his community.
Things like that.
It just kind of reinforces the idea that he's a high-value person.
Okay, now let's talk about money for a second.
Yeah, let's do it.
I know this can be a sensitive topic,
For sure.
but it came up in our research, so we got to address it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to clarify that we're not talking about how much money a man has.
Like being a millionaire or something.
No.
Not at all.
So it's more about financial responsibility,
Right.
like having your act together.
Exactly. It's about being able to manage your resources, make sound decisions, and provide a sense of security.
That makes a lot of sense.
And this actually ties into another really important quality: independence.
Independence.
Mhm.
Now, I think we often hear about women wanting men who are independent.
Yes.
But what does that actually look like in the context of an older man? It means having a life outside of the relationship. So he has his own interests, his own hobbies, his own friends.
Like a sense of self.
Exactly.
So he's not relying on his partner to be his everything.
Right. He's not looking for someone to complete him. He's looking for someone to complement him.
Yeah, I think that's really important.
Because nobody wants to feel like someone's whole world revolves around them.
That's suffocating.
It is. It's too much pressure.
Okay, now I know this is a basic one, but communication.
Yeah,
It's gotta be important.
it is fundamental.
But is there anything unique about the way that older men communicate?
Well, our sources suggest that they tend to be better at communicating their needs and their feelings.
No, interesting.
They've had more practice
more time to figure it out. Exactly. To learn to express themselves.
and to listen.
To really listen.
Yes,
Actively listen.
active listening is key.
And that makes a big difference, doesn't it?
It really does, because it creates that sense of feeling heard and understood.
And that's so important.
Isn't it? Because if you don't feel understood by your partner,
Yeah.
what's the point?
You're just going through the motions at that point.
Exactly.
Okay, so one of the concepts that we encountered in our research that I found really fascinating was the idea of mentorship.
Oh, yeah. That's a great one.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Sure. So, in the context of a romantic relationship, mentorship isn't about being condescending or talking down to your partner.
Yeah.
It's about a willingness to share your experience and your wisdom.
To support your partner's growth.
Exactly.
That's beautiful.
I think so too. And it creates a dynamic of respect and admiration.
Mutual respect.
Yeah, it's really special.
Now, another thing our source touched on was the importance of purpose.
Yes. And that's something that often comes with age.
Why is that?
Well, as we get older, we tend to have a clearer sense of who we are and what we want out of life.
Yeah.
We're more focused on making a difference, on leaving our mark on the world.
Okay, so what does that have to do with attraction?
Well, imagine being with someone who's passionate about something, someone who's driven to make a positive impact.
I'd be inspired.
It's inspiring, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's contagious.
You start to think about your own purpose.
Exactly. And it can really elevate a relationship.
Make it more than just the day-to-day stuff.
Absolutely.
Now, before we move on, there's one more quality I wanted to touch on that came up in our research, and it's often overlooked.
That's that.
Patience.
Oh, yes.
Why do you think patience is so important in the context of attraction?
Well, I think older men tend to have a better understanding of the fact that good things take time. They're not in a rush to get to the finish line.
And they trust the process.
Exactly.
Which can be really reassuring for their partners.
Right. It's like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm here for the long haul.
It's like we've been building this amazing picture of what makes a man truly attractive.
And it's so much more than just the superficial stuff, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's about character, it's about values, it's about how you approach life, all of it. You know, I wanted to circle back to something we talked about earlier, which is emotional intelligence.
Right.
Our sources really emphasize how important that is, especially for older men.
Yeah, it's not just some, fluffy concept. It actually makes a huge difference in relationships.
Okay, so for our listeners out there who might be thinking, what's the big deal with emotional intelligence? Can you give us like a real-world example of how it plays out?
Sure. So let's say a couple is going through a tough time.
Okay.
Maybe they have a disagreement or something stressful happens.
Like a life event, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. The man who has emotional intelligence can kind of stay grounded.
Okay.
He can acknowledge his own feelings.
Like not getting overwhelmed?
Exactly. And he can empathize with his partner's perspective without getting defensive.
It's almost like he can weather the storm.
Yes. And help his partner through it too.
And that stability, I imagine, is just so valuable in a relationship.
It's essential, I think. It creates a feeling of safety and security.
And trust, I bet.
Yeah, all of that.
And I'm guessing a lot of that emotional maturity just comes with time.
I think so. Like as you go through life, you experience ups and downs.
Heartbreak.
Triumphs.
Yeah.
All those things help you understand yourself better and understand other people better.
So it's not just about age, it's about what you've learned along the way.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes older men so attractive. They've kind of earned their wisdom,
They've put in the work.
and that makes them really compelling partners.
Well said.
You too.
So I think we've covered some really fascinating stuff today. From the science of scent to the power of emotional intelligence, we've really dived deep.
We have.
And hopefully our listeners have a better understanding of what makes older men so attractive to younger women.
That was the goal.
But before we wrap things up, I just want to leave our listeners with one final thought. Embrace your age. Embrace your experience. Embrace all the wisdom you've gained along the way.
Yeah, age is just a number.
What really matters is who you are on the inside.
That's what makes you attractive.
That's what makes you magnetic.
Exactly.
All right, folks, that's it for today's deep dive on the psychology of attraction between younger women and older men.
I had a blast.
Me too. A huge thank you to our listeners for joining us on this journey.
We'll catch you next time.
See ya.